evening and good to have you back on this edition of the Urban Debate. Through this week, it's been extremely action-packed, primarily because citizens across the country, first in the Northeast, then across universities, the Young India, and now pretty much in many other cities of across the country in all regions, have decided to speak up against the Citizenship Amendment Act. Today was day 6 of the protest and it continued. The situation remained tense in several parts of Uttar Pradesh as protests against the Anti-Citizenship Act continued there. In some parts, there was violence that was reported. Yesterday, it was primarily limited to just Lucknow and a couple of other cities. Today, at least across 6 different cities, starting with Gorakhpur, where protesters were seen pelting stones at the police. Similar protests erupted in Ghaziabad, Meerut, where police resorted to bait and charge. There was a lot of heavy stone pelting that took place in Firozabad and Bhadohi. Protesters were lathi charged in Bahraich, while vehicles were vandalized in Bulandshahr. Internet services remain suspended in 22 cities. And the news that's just come in is 5 people have been killed in anti-citizenship protest-related violence in Uttar Pradesh. Let me go across to Prashant, who's joining us live with more information. Prashant, 5 deaths spread across the state of Uttar Pradesh because that's the amount of violence that we've seen. What can you tell us? What transpired in UP today?
Well, Tanvi, you see what happened in the state of Uttar Pradesh yesterday was something that was completely unprecedented, especially in Lucknow. You know, Lucknow, it's a city of peace, it's a city of love, but the visuals that came in from Lucknow were quite shocking. I personally have not seen something like that happening in Lucknow for the past many years. But despite that, despite a high-level meeting that was shared at the residence of Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath late at night, despite the fact that Section 144 was in place, many thought that today things would be relatively calmer. But surprisingly and shockingly, things went bizarre even today in districts like Pilibhit, Bagpat, Gorakhpur, Yogi's home turf, and Kanpur and Firozabad, where we can confirm to our viewers right now that at least 5 people have been confirmed are dead in the protests that erupted in various parts of the states. And protesters did come out on streets in large numbers, despite the fact that Section 144 was in place. The people were allowed to assemble. How did it happen? One doesn't know. It's a matter of investigation, but that is the reality. People did assemble, and as a result of which, we saw widespread violence across the state of Uttar Pradesh, especially in Western Uttar Pradesh, where even now, as I speak to you, I am getting information of violence actually being reported from the districts of Meerut and connecting Hapur. So clearly, Western UP is not peaceful at all, and that's the reason of worry for the UP government. But will the UP government that was absolutely on toes when the Ayodhya verdict was delivered, nothing had happened? How is it possible that the UP police did not have any idea about the kind of protest, the magnitude of protest that was lying under the wraps in the state of Uttar Pradesh? So many questions are being asked of the UP government. How soon does the answer come? And how soon will the investigation actually finish is something only the time will tell. But for now, people in the state of Uttar Pradesh, the government is only urging people to maintain calm and maintain restraint. But the fact is, people in lakhs of people are actually coming out on the streets protesting. We'll have to see, Tanvi, what transpires tomorrow, because tomorrow also we might have some protests in the Western UP and also.
But Prashant, very quickly, after what we have seen yesterday and today, has the has the government now become a little bit more precautious? Have they called in for additional security troops from elsewhere? What is the plan of action to ensure this doesn't repeat tomorrow? Have people been taken into detention before in anticipation of what may go wrong?
Well, you see, everything was quite clear in front of the administration even yesterday, Tanvi, and that's the reason perhaps why the Chief Minister had done a video conferencing with all the DMs and SSPs late at night, 11:30 to be precise. Strict orders were given, internet was scrapped. So many were expecting that things would be set all right today. But as we speak, the Additional Chief Secretary, Mr. Avnish Awasthi, was telling us that perhaps 5 people have died, and tomorrow they are now completely on their toes. For the fact that they were completely on their toes in Lucknow today, we did not see many protests there, but for the fact that there was some sort of laxity in deployment and also in action on ground, we have seen protests, sporadic protests, and violent protests from various parts of Uttar Pradesh. So clearly, policing needs to be stepped up, and also answers need to come in from the chief minister, who's also the home minister. Will the answers come? No one knows. But when this protest stop is something the entire Uttar Pradesh is asking.
Well, I actually also want to just highlight what happened specifically in Meerut. While we were showing 6 different cities where violence really took place through the day. Prashant, thanks so much for bringing us an update on that. But in Meerut in Uttar Pradesh, protesters resorted to violence, set vehicles ablaze. They also targeted a police outpost. They also attempted to set the police outpost ablaze. And then they were dispersed by the cops, who rushed to the spot just in time. Policemen as well as civilians were injured in this face-off that took place.
शाम के समय में भारी संख्या में कुछ उपद्रवी लोग सड़कों पर आए थे, जिनके द्वारा पथराव किया गया और उनके द्वारा फायरिंग भी तमंचों से की गई। और इसमें पुलिस द्वारा जो कार्रवाई की गई उसमें करीब 1.5 दर्जन लोगों को हिरासत में लिया गया है। इसके अलावा और भी लोग चिन्हित किए गए हैं, जिनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई सुनिश्चित की जा रही है। इनके द्वारा जो पथराव हुआ है उसमें करीब आधा दर्जन पुलिसकर्मी थे जिनको हल्की चोटें आई हैं, और हमारे आरएएफ के 2 जवान थे जिनको छर्रे लगे थे। सबका इलाज करा दिया गया है, सब लोग ठीक हैं और 1.5 दर्जन लोग गिरफ्तार हुए हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त ये भी सूचना मिली है कि जो दंगाई थे, इन्होंने फायरिंग जो की है उसमें आपस में भी इनके किसी व्यक्ति को गोली लगी है। उसको भी हम लोग सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि किस व्यक्ति को गोली लगी है, उसको सत्यापित करने का हम लोग प्रयास कर रहे हैं। बाकी इन्होंने आगजनी की है। आगजनी ये एक चौकी के पास, इस्लामाबाद चौकी के पास आए थे। जब फोर्स ने इनको भगाया तो भागते समय इन्होंने एक बाइक सड़क के किनारे जलाई है। फायर टेंडर आ गया, उसकी आग तत्काल बुझा ली गई थी और वो भी सारे लोग चिन्हित कर लिए गए थे। उन पर भी कार्रवाई सुनिश्चित की जा रही है। बाकी किसी चौकी, किसी थाने में किसी प्रकार की कोई आगजनी नहीं है और स्थिति जनपद में पूरी तरह से सामान्य है।
Let's also now turn our attention to what happened in the national capital. High drama prevailed at Jama Masjid in Delhi after Delhi police tried to detain the Bhim Army chief Chandrasekhar Azad. However, the cops in fact were unable to detain him after the crowd started shouting slogans against the police. The cops then had to forcibly move Azad from one location to the other in order to control any untoward or stop any untoward incident from taking place. This was earlier in the day. Take a look.
Chandrasekhar Azad amidst the crowd that is there. You can clearly see Chandrasekhar Azad being detained by the police officials. There you see the PRO of Delhi police with Chandrasekhar Azad. The huge crowd has gathered at the outside of Jama Masjid after the Friday prayers. This is the situation outside Jama Masjid. Chandrasekhar Azad hasn't been given the permission to carry out a march from Jama Masjid to Jantar Mantar, and the police officials have already clarified that he will be detained the moment he comes out of the Jama Masjid, and he has come out of the Jama Masjid now. You can see in the visuals police official detaining Chandrasekhar Azad who is of the Bhim Army, who had given a call for the march from here to Jantar Mantar. This is the situation of Jama Masjid on Friday. This is after prayers. People have gathered in large number protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act. Chandrasekhar Azad, holding the Constitution of India and Baba Bhim Rao Ambedkar's photo, has been detained by the police officials.
हमारे देश के संविधान आर्टिकल 15 को बदल के जो सरकार अपना संविधान लागू कर रही है, अब आप एक बात बताइए, 70 साल पुराना, 50 साल पुराना प्रूफ हम कहाँ से देंगे? कैसे पता करोगे आपके इंडियन है? प्यार बांटो, देश नहीं।
सरकार ये कहती है, कल भी सरकार ने कहा कि सीए के बाद
नहीं, लिखत के अंदर दे दें, लिखत के अंदर दे दें, वोट्स नहीं, लिखत के अंदर।
पूरा हिंदुस्तान बड़ा भाई खिलाफ है, तो क्यों नहीं हो रहे वापसी है? चलो एक आदमी हो, 2 आदमी है, 9 आदमी है, पूरा हिंदुस्तान खिलाफ है भाई।
सर मेरा कहना ये है कि उन्होंने एनआरसी और कैब को निकालने के बाद ये पक्का जाहिर कर दिया कि अपना बेटा यतीम कर दिया और दूसरा बेटा गोदी ले लिया।
Scores of protesters were stopped at Delhi Gate later in the evening then, when they were heading and marching towards India Gate to voice their dissent against this new law and the proposed NRC. In fact, they were seen sloganeering, and then at one point when they were stopped and the crowd got angry and agitated, they first began to hurl shoes at the police personnel, didn't stop there, started pelting stones. A car was then set ablaze by the protesters. Take a look.
ये बैरिकेडिंग के उस साइड थे ये प्रदर्शनकारी जिन्होंने आगजनी की है। हम कोशिश करेंगे कि आपको ताज़ा विजुअल्स ला कर दें। ये देखिए, आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर आगजनी हुई है। आप देखिए यहाँ पर आग को बुझाने की कोशिश है। आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे आग को बुझाने की कोशिश की आप देख सकते हैं पुरजोर कोशिश हो रही है कि आप देखिए दिल्ली पुलिस की तरफ से कोशिश की जा रही है कि ये जो कार जल रही है को दिखाएंगे। यहाँ पे वो गाड़ी है जो अभी जल रही है और पुलिस ने कहा है जो भी लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं उनको गाड़ी से पीछे हटने को कहा है क्योंकि वो आग को बुझाने में काबू नहीं पा पाए और इसके कारण आप देख सकते हैं कि जो कार है वो जल रही है। यहाँ पर कोशिश ये है कि वाटर कैनन वाली गाड़ी को लाकर यहाँ पर आग को बुझाया जाए, कोशिश यही है। इसलिए अगर आप देखें इसमें जो गाड़ी के अंदर जो आग लग रही है उसे बुझाने का प्रयास अभी भी दिल्ली पुलिस करेगी ज़रूर और इसके लिए वो वाटर कैनन की गाड़ी दूसरी तरफ से लाई जा रही है। अगर आप बात करें यहाँ पर प्रदर्शनकारी जमा थे, आप देख सकते हैं वो कार है जिससे आप देख सकते हैं वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है। ये विजुअल्स हैं जिसमें दिल्ली पुलिस की जो गाड़ी है वो कोशिश कर रही है कि कैसे आग पे काबू पाया जाए गाड़ी के। ये दिल्ली डिप्टी कमिश्नर ऑफ पुलिस का ऑफिस है जहां पर ये गाड़ी जलाई गई है। गाड़ी के अंदर से वो आवाज़ें आ रही थी, इसीलिए दिल्ली पुलिस ने कहा कि कोई एक्सप्लोजन हो सकता है, इसलिए मीडिया कर्मी कृपया पीछे जाएं। आप देख सकते हैं वाटर कैनन का तेज पानी की धार भी जो आग को है कितनी देर लग रही है काबू पाने में इस आग पर। ये डिप्टी कमिश्नर ऑफ पुलिस जो हैं उनका ऑफिस है मंदार, उसके सामने ये कार को आग लगाया गया, कार में आग लगाई गई, जिसके बाद अब दिल्ली पुलिस कोशिश कर रही है कि कैसे इस आग पर काबू पाया जाए। मौजूदा हालात आपको यहाँ पर दिख जाएंगे। जब प्रदर्शनकारी यहाँ पे बैठे थे पहले कोशिश थी कि कैसे वाटर कैनन से हटाया जाए, प्रदर्शनकारी यहीं पर थे, यहीं से पथराव किया जा रहा था। दूसरी तरफ जब वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल हुआ उसी बीच हमने ये देखा कि एक जो गाड़ी थी उसे जला दिया गया। यहाँ पर ये गाड़ी के अंदर से वो एक्सप्लोजन हुआ है और इसीलिए शायद दिल्ली पुलिस ने कहा था कि गाड़ी से उचित दूरी बनाकर रखनी होगी। भी आपको अगर दिखाएं तो सड़क जो दूसरी तरफ है वो सड़क पूरी ही तरह से खाली है। अब जो पुलिस के अधिकारी हैं, जो रैपिड एक्शन फोर्स की टीम है, वो बैरिकेड के इस तरफ आ चुकी हैं। अगर अभी भी आप देखें तो वाटर कैनन का इस्तेमाल जो है वो बंद कर दिया गया है, मगर जो गाड़ी है उस पर अभी आप उसमें देख सकती हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं जो आग है वो दिख रही है आपको। प्रदर्शनकारी तो हट गए हैं लेकिन उनके द्वारा जो नुकसान यहाँ पे किया गया है वो कहीं ना कहीं नहीं हट पा रहा और दिल्ली पुलिस को यहाँ पर काबू करने में इस पे परेशानी आ रही है।
Well, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has now reacted to this ongoing protest and the linkage of NRC in Citizenship Amendment Act, and she says that when the NRC process has not even begun, and when it begins, it will not be without consultation of the stakeholders or talking to people. She's also slammed the opposition, saying that some parties are linking the Citizenship Act to the NRC, which hasn't even started. So one has to keep in mind the government is now beginning to send out these messages. We earlier in the evening had an unnamed official of the government also saying that any suggestions regarding this law are welcome. Here is the finance minister herself saying that when the process of a nationwide NRC starts, they will speak to people, they will hear the voice of people, and they will consult with all the stakeholders. Let's see and wait and watch when that happens, and if this is enough really to pacify the people who are out on the streets right now. Also, update coming in, Priyanka Gandhi is now at the India Gate. Let's listen in.
किस स्थिति में डाल रहे हैं देश को? जिस तरह से नोटबंदी के लिए लाइन में खड़ा किया था, उसी तरह से अब ये चाह रहे हैं कि इस मुद्दे पे लाइन में पूरा देश खड़ा हो। कौन इफेक्ट होगा इससे? जो अमीर है वो तो पासपोर्ट दिखा देगा, जो गरीब है वो क्या करेगा, जो डेली वेज के लेबर हैं वो क्या करेंगे, जो डेली वेज के लेबर है, जो I agree with you. I've just come to say hello. I've come. Yeah. I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. But no, I understand that. I'm fully with you. And in fact, that's why I came quietly. I don't want to make a drama here. I just came for solidarity towards you. Okay, and to say we're with you and we stand with you.
Ma'am, violence
And listen, if you prefer, we'll go quietly.
ma'am, violence भी हो रही है.
हाँ कोई मैसेज है ना? She has something to say. कुछ कहना चाह रही है.
मैम, violence भी हो रही है. Violence के लिए कुछ कहेंगी आप?
जो भी प्रदर्शन है शांतिपूर्वक होने चाहिए.
देश के युवाओं के लिए कोई मैसेज देना चाहेंगे मैम?
Well, this would have been the second time that she came to India Gate, but Priyanka Gandhi now making a point about NRC and nationwide NRC and saying that how will that work out for the underprivileged, for the poor who don't have their documents. It was also interesting that she came there to meet some people and show their solidarity, but there was a lady there, and you can see her in the cameras, who says that, well, this protest is not about you and people like you. And she says, I know that. Priyanka Gandhi actually responded. She at least acknowledged that there were protesters there who were objecting to the presence of politicians. And Priyanka Gandhi then said that I know that, I'm simply here to express my support. Now, let's talk about what we're going to tell you in the next 1.5 hours. We are going to focus on simply the facts. Even now, viewers, many of us are extremely confused over the Citizenship Amendment Act, over the National Registry of Citizens, which currently is only applicable in Assam, but the government does say that they want to take it across the country. Those who are protesting, do they know all the facts? There is a lot of misinformation that's also doing the rounds. So we have decided that in the next 120 minutes or so, we will decode the anti-citizenship protests for you. And here are the big issues, here are the big questions that we will look to answer. Question number one, of course, is will the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act, impact you? Is that why people are so worried? Who does it impact? Is that why they're out on the streets? Question number two, what is the NRC? That's the other new thing that's now emerged. The Parliament only passed the Citizenship Amendment Act. What's the new NRC everybody seems to be talking about? Now, how was NRC implemented in Assam? That's the only state in our country where this has taken place. We will give you those details, help you understand how was it done there. What does a national NRC really entail? Does it mean that all of us have to give our citizenship proof, our birth certificates, what documents will be needed, when will it happen, how will it happen? We'll give you all those details. We'll also tell you what are the implications of NRC plus CAA. And of course, the big debate. You may have heard many versions. We'll get into it again. Is the CAA violative of the Constitution? So these are largely the things that we are going to look at. Let me first start with the point number one. What is the CAA? The Citizenship Act existed in our country, as in our Constitution. What the government has done now has amended it. And the amendment that has been brought in largely refers to 6 religions from 3 different nations. People of these 6 religions who came as refugees or illegal immigrants to our country from Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, this is what the amendment is about. Now, who are these people? What's the cutoff date or their eligibility criteria? They should have been in this country, in our country, before December 31st, 2014. It's not as if there are 100,000 people standing at the borders today, this law applies to them. No, it doesn't. Does it apply across the country though? Yes, it does. For now, the government says parts of Northeast that come under the 6th schedule will not have this law applicable, but it's largely a rhetorical point, because if you're a citizen of this country, you're a citizen everywhere. Your rights as an Indian citizen will not vanish just because you enter one part of our country. We will go angle by angle and give you more facts and details, and we have experts who are with us. Justice Saldana, former judge of the Bombay High Court, with us, and Vinay Tiwari, our managing editor, also with us this evening. Justice Saldana, thank you for joining us this evening. Do you believe that a lot of people are now getting confused between what the NRC may be and what Citizenship Amendment Act is? We already had a Citizenship Act, Justice Saldana. The amendment is largely about these 3 countries.
Tanvi, it is the recent legislation, that is the amendment, that has triggered off all of this. And I was a little pained to hear a little slightly earlier on your channel that one of the ministers makes a statement that we will look into objections, we will invite suggestions now. My view of the matter is very simple, and I'm sure most people will agree with it, that this process should have been done before introducing the bill and before passing it. The bill has already become law, and now you say that we will invite suggestions. Now, should this not have been done earlier? Anyway, it's for the government to look into that, because it's not too late for them to rethink. It's not too late for them to relook. And it's not too late also, if the amendments are warranted, to bring about amendments.
Okay.
So this is with
Justice
regard
Saldanha,
to the procedure.
Just for
now, let
understanding.
me
Go ahead, please. Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
The other aspect is that from the very mass reaction, there may be political opposition to many moves of the government. Politics is a different field altogether. But if you look at the reaction that has taken place, it's right from the students to the members of almost all communities all over the country. There is a lot of worry and there's a lot of concern. Now, merely turning around and saying that you don't worry because Indian Muslims will be safe, so on and so forth. I personally feel, this is my view, I personally feel that there was no need to have drawn a distinction between one community and the other. This is the bottom line. This is what has started all the trouble. Now you can find out where people have come from,
right,
or that there are scientific methods of ascertaining. But you've also got to look at ground realities. One of the areas that is being focused on is that all communities, not only the Muslim community, all communities, I belong to the Christian communities, my community is the same, all communities in this country have a very large number of poor people, illiterate people, people who do not possess documents and who will not be able to produce documents. So you've got to have a proper investigative procedure. Now, what has happened in Assam has not been very satisfactory. And then even under the law, they say that we have found some 18,000 or 18 lakhs, I don't know what the figure is,
yes,
people who according to us are not eligible for citizenship.
Yes.
Now, this refugee problem, Tanvi, is a global problem. The whole of Europe, I've traveled in many of the countries for professional work. In Europe, it's a very serious problem.
Yes.
Now,
but,
even as
you
far
know, Justice
as
Saldanha, you will
country is
agree
concerned,
that at some point where we have moved from the whole objection and protest to the Citizenship Amendment Act and the debate over the constitutionality of that and whether that's constitutional or not constitutional, to now saying, oh, we are more fearful of what may come across or may happen when nationwide NRC has taken place. And today, honestly, I just want to highlight what the two issues are and where they may overlap. But please stay on with us. I just also want to say good evening to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, a three-time Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha, of course, an eminent senior counsel with the Supreme Court and a senior Congress spokesperson as well. Mr. Manu Singhvi, thank you so much for joining us on this. Do you believe that somewhere people are getting confused, or is the concern now largely about a nationwide NRC and not the amended Citizenship Act?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me? Band ho gaya. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Go ahead,
please. Speak up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are very many substantive heads of objections. There is a very strong constitutional objection of wrong classification based on religion, and the details of it will be very interesting when we come to it. There is a strong international law argument. It actually violates international treaties India has signed. There is a strong argument about violating regional accords, Assam and Tripura being two accords out of many more. But now you're asking me not these three things on which I have a lot of interesting material, but asking me about confused. Now it is very easy, and I think the government would like to use the word confused. The people are not confused at all. It's nice for the government to say they are either confused or they are provoked by the left, by the Congress, by the TMC, etc., etc. The people have seen through it being what it is. A, please don't dehyphenate NRC and CAA. Unless people eat grass, nobody is going to accept dehyphenation. We know why they have brought it. They know that we know why they have brought it. And both of us know that the people know as to why they brought it. The reason is A, to give an ex post facto legitimacy to a large blunder in Assam, which they did not expect the numbers to reveal what it revealed. The second is to prepare in advance to give a similar stamp of legitimacy for the proposed nationwide NRC. Now, however Mr. Amit Shah may go black and blue in his face trying to dehyphenate these things, they are inextricably intertwined. The people who fall under certain communities, certain religions in the old mixed up NRC of Assam will be automatically in a blanket sense given citizenship to certain categories under this act. The people who will be similarly placed after the national NRC, God knows how long it will take, how much utal-putal it will do in the country, will also be similarly segregated, and some will be given citizenship. Both will happen on the basis of religion. So people are not confused. They are scared.
Okay. But
they are divided. They are apprehensive. And I would be, if I was living in a country and I was living in a foreign country which had these things, I would feel
here is where my doubt comes from. I understand.
They're not confused at all. The government is confused.
I understand people can be scared because they don't know what's going to happen next. They can be scared because we've seen what's happened in Assam with the NRC. Legitimate Indians have struggled with their documentation work, and if tomorrow every Indian begins to go through the same struggle, it's understandable. But I don't understand the connect, Mr. Singhvi. How can we say that if I am unable to prove my citizenship as an Indian, I can still be included under the CAA? How is that? I still don't have my documents. What is it the government will see in me to say, okay, but you can be considered a Pakistani Hindu, come, you can be part of us?
It's very simple.
Yes.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Let me try and oversimplify it, but make it straight. Assume now you have 19 lakh people who are who have been found to be, the number in the NRC of Assam. We don't know the actual figures, but it is believed from the unrest in the BJP in Assam, and I'm going by common sense,
yes,
that a very large number, overwhelming number of those 19 lakhs are non-Muslims. Something unexpected for the BJP. I'll give you a concrete example and answer to your question. Now assume that, say, 13 lakhs of those, I'm just assuming, nobody's done a census, but the outcry of the BJP appears to suggest this. Suppose 13 of them are non-Muslims. Now, therefore, you have 13 people who are not found to have citizenship documents, who are non-Muslims, and let me assume that of those 13, about 7 lakhs or 8 lakhs are from the chosen 3 countries and belong to the chosen 5 religions. Are you with me till now?
Yes.
So we've come from 19 lakhs to about 10 lakhs or 9 lakhs or 8 lakhs, whatever the figure is. Those 8 lakhs, irrespective of any persecution, irrespective of any other further inquiry, would be entitled to get citizenship by merely saying 3 things. One, that we are from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, or Pakistan. Pakistan. Obviously, they have to prove something to do with that. It's easy to prove that. Second, that we are not Muslims, we are not Jews. Thirdly, that we claim orally that we were persecuted. Nothing more is required after that. This act says that 2 things you are forgetting. This act says that proceeding against these very 7 lakh people for being non-citizens or for illegal, the word is illegal immigrants, those proceedings will end, they'll abate, they'll cease.
Okay.
2, they'll be entitled to apply. 3, the entitlement requires nothing but 3 things. A birthmark of 3 countries, a birthmark of 5 religions, and a claim to persecution unverified.
Yeah, but okay.
That's it.
Okay. But how does that
This is the
pose any
simplest
danger to
way,
any
apart
current
from the
Indian
constitutional
citizen?
argument or international law argument, apart from anything else.
But how does that pose danger to any current Indian citizen? If I don't
That's not
make it
the
to this
see,
list,
that's
I
a now
can't
different
prove
question.
that I am from Afghanistan.
No. Nobody said. No. 1 minute. That's another myth which Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi are spreading. What they are saying is, please rest assured, the Citizenship Act does not take away your citizenship. Oh, we are very grateful. We should fall over ourselves thanking you. Who said in the first place that the Citizenship Act is taking away citizenships?
Correct.
It would be very difficult under the Constitution that a citizenship once granted can be taken away. Who nobody is saying, only Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah are saying. The point is not that it's being taken away. The point is it has been discriminatorily granted. Out of the 19 lakhs, why don't the balance 9 lakhs also get citizenship? They are not going to get citizenship. They are going to be excluded. They are going to be deported as illegal migrants.
Okay.
So Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi have very cleverly changed the terms of discourse. Nobody is objecting to this. This is not an act which can, because under the Constitution, if I give you citizenship, it's well nigh impossible to take it away from you.
Okay.
Nobody has said so. It's like putting an argument into your mouth and then triumphantly shooting it down. I'm not arguing that. Nobody is arguing that. The argument is that of the 19 lakhs, 7 or 8 or 9 chosen few would get on a discriminatory basis. And then, of course, I have several legal arguments what's discriminatory. The choice of 3 countries, the choice of 5 religions, the fact that persecution is a catchword, magical word, the fact that you make a selection based on multiple citizenships. What you're doing is, you're saying you are a special citizenship. You are an illegal immigrant, a lesser citizen. A third category will be the ordinary man seeking through ordinary procedures.
Okay. Mr. Singhvi, since you wanted to discuss,
high degree going on.
Since you wanted to also talk more about the constitutionality of CAA itself. Now, one of the arguments that is also being put by the other side is that no, it doesn't go against Article 14. It has nothing to do with that at all. It's not unconstitutional because otherwise, why would you have, say, example, policies like reservation? Reservation is based on religion and is based on caste. If that's not unconstitutional, then why should this be?
Please let me answer it as simply as possible for the viewers. And now we're talking only law. I've answered the non-legal questions already. Now we're talking only law. First, tell me a single reservation in this country for 75 years which you have found based on religion. Please tell me. I'll be happy to know. There were 2 or 3 attempts, including by Congress governments in Andhra, BJP governments in Maharashtra, which said that we will reserve because of we'll reserve for Muslims in Andhra, for example. It was struck down by Andhra High Court. Appeal is pending in Supreme Court. Please tell me in 70 years which Prime Minister, which political party, which minister has actually passed a law saying I will give or not give on the basis of religion. You can't even do it on caste. You know that. All the reservations are talking about are based on class, C-L-A-S-S. Now you are forgetting class, forgetting caste, you are talking of reservation. You are giving the analogy of reservation, but using religion. Point number 1. Point number 2. Take a simple example. You have a room. Please assume, please don't forget that where you are sitting in your studio is a room of 100 refugees actually sitting in India. Assume your room is a camp. Not refugees, wrong word. Individuals who are alleged to be illegal migrants.
Yes.
And assume in that room they are from 10 countries with 10 religions. Right where you are sitting in the studio. Article 14 violation number 1. Those 100 from 10 countries are straight away cut down to 40. Assume only 40 are from 3 chosen countries. So discrimination number 1. There are 10 neighboring countries, but you choose only 3 and cut down the 100 to 40. Then further from the 40, you cut down another 15 because they are either Muslims or Jews. So only 5 religions are included. So 40 becomes 25. Number 3, this is discrimination number 2. Discrimination number 3, you have reduced a room full of actual alleged illegal migrants of 100 to a eligible category of 25. Now when these 25 apply, all the balance 75 are deemed not to be eligible for citizenship under this route, under this favoured route. Number 4, All these 25 are deemed to be eligible for citizenship under this favored route. Number 5, none of these 25 have to do any proof of persecution.
Okay.
There's no inquiry, proof of persecution. By the very fact, you are deeming that Afghanistan always per se persecutes every non-Muslim. You are deeming that Bangladesh per se persecutes every non-Muslim. Now you are creating multiple citizenships. If this is not Article 14, I'd like to know what is. What's the point of giving absolutely foolish examples which we are finding coming from the government about reservation? Please give me a single reservation based on the fact that you are a Muslim or a Jew and you are not a Muslim or a Jew.
So the argument then, Mr. Singhvi, is it's simply about...
If I was to reserve because you are a Rajput and I am a non-Rajput, even that is illegal. Only you can do it on class. Caste comes within class for an extent of evaluation. But even you can't do a reservation on caste. Leave aside religion.
Okay, that's an interesting
the Prime Minister and his Home Minister have not opened the Constitution
clarification.
of India.
I hope people have a clearer idea now. My other question though, is the fight then simply about who gets a bigger favor? Because obviously for these people, the entire process gets easier and fast-tracked. Government says it's not as if we are denying citizenship to any Muslim, even from these countries. They can go through the regular route and get citizenship. So where is the discrimination?
Exactly. Now you are coming closer to the truth. Now you are coming closer to the truth. Remember, all of us are sitting in your room of 100. It's your room, your studio is the camp. You are suddenly reduced 100 to 25. These 25 get a fast track benefit. Others don't get any such benefit. The very fact that they are languishing for decades as illegal migrants means they have no hope in hell of getting citizenship. Because there is no favored few. For these 25, by the way, the same cases are pending of illegal migrants as the other 75. But there's a section in this act which says those cases shall cease and abate.
Okay.
We're talking law now, we're talking discrimination.
Yes.
And if the other 75 could have got citizenship so easily, why are the whole 100 languishing for the last several decades? There's no way they can get it. Because these are the ones, like the Assamese 19 lakhs, who've been found to be with imperfect documents. So it's only it's only what is known as Joan of Arc argument that, or Marie Antoinette's argument that what does it matter if these guys get bread? You can have cake at least. Why don't you have cake?
All right, Mr. Singhvi.
He can have theoretically cake. He doesn't have the wherewithal to get cake.
Well, so I am sure that this will get fought at the Supreme Court, and it will then become clearer to us on what really are the constitutionality and legalities of it. But as always, it's great to have you with us and explain some of the interesting aspects of the CA as well as the NRC. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations. Thank you so much for joining us on the Urban Debate. Now, as I've been telling our viewers, we are going to break it down into various examples. Abhishek Manu Singhvi here was also explaining to us some of those concepts. Now, the big question is, what is the NRC that we are really talking about? The NRC, viewers, is actually the National Registry of Citizens. Now, that's the second angle that we are looking at. And the NRC so far has only been implemented in Assam, and I will bring you the details of how it was done in Assam in just a bit. But to understand the NRC itself is important right now because the government has now decided that they are going to take this national. Amit Shah, the Home Minister himself, multiple times in the Parliament as well as outside the Parliament, has said in interviews, has said that yes, this is what we are going to do. The next time I come to ask for votes, which is in 2024, this would have been implemented across the country. Aarti is joining us with more on NRC and how it was done in Assam, because that's the only benchmark we have about this very interesting concept. Aarti?
That's right, Tanvi. The NRC currently is applicable only in Assam, and that's all that we have to go for currently. Now, what is the NRC? It is essentially a list of citizens of India. Now, in NRC, if you have certain documents, you can prove that you are a citizen of India. The NRC is the National Registry of citizens. It is applicable only in Assam, and this was done as a result of a Supreme Court order. Now, Assam has a history of illegal migration coming, or the influx of migrants, especially from Bangladesh, and as a result of this, there was large-scale protests in the mid-80s in Assam. Now, to resolve that issue was the Assam Accord was signed in 1985 by the Rajiv Gandhi government and the Assam Students' Union that essentially said that all migrants who have come to India on or before the 24th of March 1971 will be considered citizens. But the NRC itself has got nothing to do with religion. Unlike the CAA, this is religion neutral, and you can be part of this list irrespective of your religion if you have certain documents with you. Now, it was, as I was mentioning, it was implemented in Assam with March 24th, 1971 as the cutoff date. This was a particular date that was agreed on by the Rajiv Gandhi government and the Assam Students' Union. So anybody who has come to Assam before or on this date is considered to be an Indian citizen provided they have certain documents. Now, the NRC says that the center will be implemented. The NRC, in fact, I beg your pardon, is going to be implemented across India. This is what the center has been repeatedly saying. Now, they're completely unclear on what the contours of this particular NRC are, what are the documentation that is going to be required for this NRC, but they have expressed their intent very clearly to bring a national pan-India NRC, which is still not clear when and where it is going to be done. Now, let's come to the specifics of how NRC was implemented in Assam itself, because this was a mammoth task and it was a task that has been spanning decades. Now, the NRC in Assam in itself was a result of a Supreme Court order, and it was done under Supreme Court provisions. Now, the NRC in Assam started off with the promise. It was one of the promises of the Rajiv Gandhi government in 1985, and that is how it was implemented.
So that's as far as the NRC itself is concerned, Aarti, and since we have you with us, let's also take a look at how NRC exercise was carried out in Assam, because that's the main problem. The fear that some people have is because we've seen there, after the first round was done with almost a decade-long exercise, at the instructions of the Supreme Court, there were still lakhs of people who didn't make it to the list. So there is obviously a lot of apprehension. Give us an insight into how the process worked in Assam.
Right. Now, Tanvi, the first and only registry that was in Assam was in 1951. Since then, this particular list of citizens of India who reside in Assam has not been updated. Now, because of that, the NRC was one of the promises that was made under the Assam Accord that was signed in 1985. As I was explaining, Assam has had an extreme history of illegal migration as a result of the war, as a result of the porous borders. So there have been so many illegal migrants flowing into Assam, and as a result of that, there was a lot of tension in the region, which led to student unrest and protests. To resolve all of that, the Assam Accord was signed by the Rajiv Gandhi government, and 1971 was the cutoff date. Essentially, anybody who comes to Assam or who came to Assam before 1971, March 1971, was considered to be a citizen, and their descendants also a citizen, provided they have certain documents. Now, the NRC in 2013, the Supreme Court said that this particular act, this particular promise, which was made in 1985 to implement it, has to begin. It has, despite the 1985 accord, there was no progress made until it reached the Supreme Court. In 2013, the Supreme Court kick-started the process, and it was a mammoth process. There are these Seva Kendras that were set up across. There were so many. It was a mammoth task in the sense to get each and everyone in the remotest places to come, register, submit these documents. A final list was submitted on the 31st of August of 2019, and in this list, 19 lakh people were excluded and 3.11 crore people were considered to be Indian citizens. Now, there's a lot of discussion on what are the documents that you would have to submit if there is in fact a national NRC. We don't know that just yet, but in Assam, to prove your ancestry was Indian or to prove that you already were in India for these many years, you had to submit documents and some of them included your land or tenancy records, your citizenship certificate, an LIC policy, or any government-issued license. Now, there is a series of documents, in fact, that you were expected to produce, or at least one of them. I've just given you a slight example of that. we don't know whether a national NRC would have such provisions, but at least in Assam, it's a process that has left many people unhappy because the BJP was not very happy with the numbers. The BJP was not very happy with the fact that a lot of Hindus, in fact, were in that list of excluded people. But at the end of the day, on 31st of August 2019, we found out that 19 lakh people have been excluded from this final list.
Yeah.
Now, those 19 people still have the option of appealing to a foreigners tribunal, and they still have some remedies left. What is unclear is whether or not they will be deported, and if so, who is going to take them?
Okay, Aarti, thanks so much for putting, bringing us all of those facts, all of that information. These are verified facts that we have put out for our viewers to help them understand better NRC and especially how it was done in Assam. And in fact, to what Aarti was saying and Abhishek Manu Singh was saying earlier, even after the second revised draft register, what has emerged is that many people who are outsiders have actually managed to make it to the list, and those who are legitimately legal Indians have not got the names on the list, which is why now even the BJP that used this as a campaign tool to say we are going to throw out all the infiltrators and the illegal immigrants is now saying no, there is a problem with the processes. So if there is a problem in the process in Assam, there could be fears amongst people what will happen when it goes across the country. Let's say also good evening to Justice S.N. Dhingra, former Justice of the Delhi High Court, and Kailash Vastey, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. But Vinay, before that, I want to come to you on what we've explained to our viewers so far. It's essential to know that we'd have no other benchmark except Assam, which is, despite Supreme Court's, presence and orders, been a very, very complicated, long drawn and a messed up exercise, essentially.
Yes, and I think the absence of a benchmark has gotten compounded by the absence of communication. Because there is large-scale apprehension amongst a very vast section of people, very obviously, it was imperative and necessary that people in governance should have communicated this better. I think the communication started off by a bit of abrasiveness and a bit of non-dialogue tone, which is not exactly how it should be, especially in a law which is contentious and which is leading to fear, some of which may be unfounded, but certainly there were fears and worries. I think the Assam example should have given a little more wisdom to all these people in power, because certainly that example told you that it didn't exactly turn out the way one had anticipated, including even politically for the BJP. It's not just about, administratively, even politically it was not exactly how they had expected. And in a complex country like India, where you have different states, where different parties are now governing different states, different ethnicities and different backgrounds, it is even more imperative that the communication is extra and not less. And I think that's where the confusion has actually gone further. You've heard multiple voices and different voices, whether something as simple as is Aadhaar really admissible as a document of identity for me or not?
Yes.
There are two voices that have come out on this. People are speculating, like some people have started saying, well, Aadhaar will not be a document at all. Now others are questioning and answering, but how can Aadhaar not be? It was supposed to be the ultimate document for identity. So there is a lot of myth and a lot of information floating around. And I think the absence of communication formally and properly with all the stakeholders has actually made it probably worse.
Okay, in fact, let me bring in Justice Dhingra on this as well. Justice Dhingra, it looks like the conversation has now gone from the validity or the constitutionality of the Citizenship Amendment Act more to about what will happen between the CAA and the NRC put together. Now, essentially, people don't even know what a citizenship certificate is. So if tomorrow somebody comes to me and says, oh, your Aadhaar is not going to count, you need to give us a citizenship certificate, that may get problematic. Do we need another registry?
You see, we must first make distinction between the law and the implementation of law. Do we agree that such a law is not bad law, and implementation may be good or bad is something different? NRC is a national register of citizens. What objection can people have if the state maintains a national register of citizens and is able to know who are the illegal entrants at different stages? If we don't have national register of citizens, the state would never know how many illegal people have entered from which place and where they are settling. So let us first come to this decision, whether such a maintaining of such a register is in the national interest or not? Why objections are being raised that it is not being implemented? Tell me one law which is being implemented properly. Are we implementing CRPC properly? Are we implementing Constitution itself properly? Have we given right of equality to all people as enshrined in the Constitution? I say whether even in Supreme Court, whether the right of equality is being given to everybody. Is it not being given only to the people who have money or who engage people, advocate like Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who was just speaking at your forum? You give him money and he will start arguing on any side. So what is the right of equality being? It is not being implemented. So can we abrogate right of equality from Constitution because it is not being implemented properly? So first we must come to this conclusion whether NRC maintenance is illegal or its implementation is not proper. Once we decide this, that NRC in itself is not an illegal idea, it is in national interest, the niceties of implementation can always be tackled with. If in Assam the people have not found their way, the government has come with a solution that you can appeal to the tribunal. If the still government finds that this is also has not acted properly, the government will come up with another solution for those who, despite being genuine entrant before March 1971, have not found the way in the list. Same way, I fail to understand this Citizenship Act. Why so much hue and cry is being made? Whether it is basically illegal, have we discriminated? Have this government gone against the Constitution? Where does Constitution say that the government of India will treat all religions of Pakistan, Afghanistan equally in India?
Right.
And will treat all citizens of Pakistan and Afghanistan equally in India? I have not found. This Constitution is meant for people of India. We, the people of India, has given this Constitution to ourselves. We the people of Pakistan, has not given this Indian Constitution to ourselves.
Okay.
So, this whole controversy which is being raised must be understood how it is wrong or right. Can the state not say that the people of these religions who basically belong to India and unfortunately in division got in those countries after independence and they were persecuted, they are welcome in this country because they are in the other country.
But that's already there. I take your point, and you know, as far as the legality is concerned, of course, you have a better view and you are the better judge of that. But I'm simply saying that that always existed in our country. That law, that under our constitution, that process was already available for any of these refugees who are here to apply for citizenship and get the citizenship. What's obviously essentially happened now is the government has said, but you specifically, you guys, I am going to favor you a little bit more and fast track the whole process for you, and that, you know, within 6 years, if you can get, you can get it.
You have to understand, anybody, any illegal migrant, any illegal migrant which is in India and can apply for citizenship.
Correct.
But another ground has been added for those who have been religiously persecuted.
Only in these three countries, because we don't.
Is not persecuted in Pakistan
but the problem for many Indians is that it sends out a message that we are selective with our humanitarian actions.
These three countries.
We are selective with our humanitarian actions. We only feel for the refugees of, you know, of people who are persecuted on religious grounds. Only from these three countries, not when it comes to Myanmar.
We are openly selective.
Yes, so that could be a problem as what we stand for as a country.
I am saying our constitution is openly selective.
Okay.
Have you please read the constitution?
Yes.
It is openly selective. It prepared a list of scheduled castes where it says these castes are to be preferred. It is selective. These costs were added from time to time by the Parliament, Act of Parliament. More costs were added in that. This was selective. Thereafter, other backward classes were formed. This was selective. The person who is considered backward or scheduled caste on the ground of history, on the ground that his forefathers were persecuted in India on the ground of caste. Today, son of a Chief Justice of India, if he is scheduled caste, he gets preference over a poor man who did not have the same caste. Today, the son of President of India, if he is scheduled caste, get preference in all fields of education, selection, everywhere, against a poor man who did not have that
Fair
caste.
enough. No,
So
I understand,
selective.
you know, and I will go ahead two steps to what you are saying, Justice Jingra. Yes, and I will even say that is also perhaps one of the reasons, Justice Jingra.
Time and again said,
my apologies, I'm interrupting, but I also need to take a 20-second commercial break, which is why I'm being forced to, interrupt you. But I will also take it to two steps ahead, Justice Jingra, and say that perhaps that is also why people are coming out on the streets. When they see that laws are not being implemented on ground properly, when they see that the Constitution is not being upheld in reality properly, they are perhaps also why they are so angry tonight, why they have lost the faith in the judicial system or the political system, and then now, in a larger sign of a big movement, they're all coming ahead. Mr. Kailash Vasudeva, I request you to stay on with me for just 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, we are going to be back and we will continue this conversation where we are breaking down every complicated angle and decoding it for our viewers on NRC, on CAA. Our phone lines are open. If you have questions, do call in.